Oh, mine.
That was it. All she wrote.
Okay, so it's running now?
It is, yeah. Okay, so the good news is we're not going to cover anything new for the rest of the day. We're just going to exercise what we've learned. So we're going to learn jQuery, and as a matter of fact, all day tomorrow, we're going to do jQuery. Why are we spending so much time on jQuery when we spend like a day on the whole language? Because the way you use JavaScript in the browser as a professional developer is 9 times out of 10 with jQuery. So for professional skill, you need to be able to, when you say jQuery in an interview, it's understood, yeah, you already know JavaScript. So it's better that we introduce jQuery, the real professional tool, and then you kind of pick up and practice your JavaScript in the context of professional skills. So to do that, we're going to throw exercise after exercise at you so you become better rounded in how you use jQuery. That's good news because we're not going to introduce a new language. We're not going to introduce dramatically new concepts like we have for the past week for at least another 24 hours.
Wow.
So you can rest. It's, I used to be a wrestler, and my wrestling coach was kind of a sadist. And he said, rest while you're jogging. So at least you're not sprinting. So it's kind of, you know, we're slowing down. I want you to get all this. We're going to give you little exercises to practice. You're going to see this 10 different ways now. But we're not going to introduce brand new things. So for those of you feeling like, I don't know if I can keep up, now is your time to settle in, understand every line of code. And if you feel a little uncomfortable with HTML or CSS, now is the time. Ask those questions. Work with it in jQuery. That's why we're here. And then we're going to end tomorrow, and we're going to show you these are things you can do with jQuery, but you're going to have the weekend to take assessment. How do I feel? What do I need to brush up on Monday morning? What do I need to ask questions about? That's where we're going to end this week. So right now, you got your sights set on tomorrow afternoon. Just practice jQuery. And to that end, yesterday I created a little practice thing. If you use Git, I know we've been using Slack to share code, but I want you to use Git, and I put it in Git. It's a fully functional, well, it's purposely broken, but if you look in the comment, you can see how to fix it. That's a preview of the exercise we're going to do tomorrow. So I want you to go take a look at that, and I'm going to give you the location in Git. So it's in the course content repository. And if you're having trouble using Git, because we cover that in like an hour, it's another one of those important things. Let's go back and make sure you understand how to use Git. So I want you to use the repository. If you haven't cloned it, clone it. I'm sure you have cloned it at this point. Pull it down. How do you get the latest out of Git? Because I've added it yesterday. It wasn't there when you pulled the other day. Yep. So let's see that. Git bash here. Git pull origin master. So I already I pulled it just to make sure it was all showing up. And then that's where you need to be. Git pull origin master. That says, give me the latest. If there's anything I haven't seen that's in this repository, I want it locally. Once you do that, it's going to be under day 4. There's a new folder there, new directory, called JQ Data Table. 2 subdirectories, nothing in CSS, probably won't even come down in Git. There's going to be jQuery, I've already got it there for you. It's in the script subdirectory. p1.html. Just a little example. All that stuff, not even script. All that CSS, just making things pretty. Okay? So you've learned what this is. You've learned what a click event is. You know I'm looking for something with an ID of that. You understand what this is. You know what val is. What am I doing here? I'm just concatenating. What am I doing there? I'm saying go find a table with an ID of that, data-rows. Inside of that, that's the space, look for a t-body, append. So this is very similar to the exercise I just gave you to do, except this one looks a little different. Very similar, but You know, it's differently styled. If you're not sure how that happens when I put my cursor over top of it, it's CSS. That's not even JavaScript. Look at the CSS. Look at how it's a little bit better spaced. It's not just, you know, that's what all that CSS is for. It says, give me a little padding, give me a little margin. Look how big that button is. So the idea here is this is more real-life developer stuff. This is, as David put it, this is plumbing the toilets. This is what developers do with jQuery, unfortunately, on a daily basis. They don't do a whole lot of fun stuff. That's why we're here. We're going to do the fun stuff in class, so you can actually go out and do some plumbing and electrical work. So, HTML table, we got a little text box inside of a row. We have a little add person. Okay? It adds a row, very similar, except this one has a little delete button. It's not working right now. I can click it all I want. It's not going to happen. I've got the correct code commented out right here. Now I've even told you this one doesn't work. Now that, I need you to think about that. I want you to look at that and figure out why it's not working. Why this would work, but this does not. Then over here, this is preparation for Monday. So I'm trying to tie it all together. That's the big send button at the bottom. That's this thing. Doesn't do anything right now. Well, it actually puts something on the console log, so let's take a look and see what it's doing. There are 1 rows to send. Once again, this is jQuery. That's jQuery that says, find me that. Oh, look, there's a new thing. Length. That means, give me the number of elements you found. I don't want you to do anything to change this except maybe uncomment this and comment that, and I don't want you to do it now. I'm just showing you there is more there. We're going to keep feeding your brain as much as you want. And this is a more true-to-life, this is how you might build a screen, completely in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And the send would be when you send it to the server to be stored in a database somewhere. And we're going to talk about that on Monday. But for now, we just need to understand jQuery events, jQuery functions. So I'm going to close that down. I want you to pull it down in Get if you have some time after this next exercise and take a look at it. If you don't understand it, we'll talk about it tomorrow. You're not going to have to write this. I just want you to have it as a reference and see what's going on. You can take a look. There's a new thing too. Remove. That says there's a new closest. That's a new thing. So I just wanted you to take a look at that. Now, let's talk about some other things that we can do with jQuery. And this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to give you as an exercise today. I'm going to give this to you, and I want you to go off and do it. And I want you to understand, and if you don't understand every line of jQuery that we've written for you or that you're writing, it's very important that you stop, understand it all. And when you're ready, I put some things in here in Slack. You know, go download this little JavaScript library. Anybody tell me what a library is? It's a file. It's a JavaScript file. So somebody else out there decided to write a little JavaScript file, and what it does, might as well show it to you. See, hopefully spark enough interest so that you'll go out and take a look at it. You know the alert? The alert is old school JavaScript built into the browser. It's really ugly. Here's the upgrade. And it's got different colors. It's got, you know, all kinds of stuff. Toast type warning is going to be, oh, it's got a little icon there. Did I write any of that? No. Not one line of code there. You get all that for free, as long as you know how to use it. What do you have to do to use it? You got to download a file. You've got to put a script reference in the top of your page, and you've got to learn, and you've got to look at their code. And it's like, okay, just like jQuery, you have the little $ and certain syntax. Well, here it is. Let's go see how they do it. That's what documentation is for. So it says, okay, Depending on the language that you're using, here's how you install it. We're going to install it very easy. We're going to download it. We're actually going to just put it in our page as a script reference. But then you can look out there and it's like, how do I use this thing? I'm sure they have some better documentation, but if you want to see, we all know it's running in the browser. Page source. What does their code look like? Okay? Sometimes they put it at the bottom. There it is. So.
You can even like create one and then go look at the source and then put it right
Yep. So they've made the most complicated example here because they're showing off all of their options. Okay? So that's the challenge. If you want to use this, and we'll go over this, I'll show you how to use it in the morning. But if you want a challenge, go download the library, set a script reference, see if you can use it. It's really, really easy. The reason I chose Toaster, it's one of those things that you often put in really professional done applications because it's a whole lot better than Alert, just to tell the user this is what's happening. And you can do it with like one line of code. Because really, all you have to do is like, I want you to show yourself. I want you to show yourself as what type, maybe a success or maybe you had an error. And I'm going to give you a little message. This is the message that I want you to show the user. That's pretty much it. So it's usually one line of code. And you get all of this for free, as long as you know how to use it. And that's true of all these JavaScript libraries. This is just the first of several that we can introduce to you. And when you go on the job and you're like, oh, I'm going to use Toaster for that. It's like, oh, wow, they know what they're doing. And it's like one line of code. Okay, let's do another exercise. And like I said, I'm going to leave you alone, let you code, let it all sink in, ask questions. Let's do this. Who knows for loops well? You feel comfortable with JavaScript and for loops? Not you. Docent raised her hand. So, for loops, you want to see a for loop again, or you got that?
I'd like to see for loop again.
Okay. Let's do this.
Oh, for loop.
Let's do...
Make them reverse and arrow in reverse.
I didn't know Moodit was a sadist, but apparently is. He's suggesting things that I shouldn't ask you to do. Okay, so... All I'm doing here is I created a new file. I'm not going to reuse the old one. And I'm going to go open that folder. That's one of the features of these nice little editors. And I'm going to choose it. So I've got a blank file, you know? Let's see. Okay. So, what are we missing? We're missing our script tag, and I'm not going to go look that up. This is how you cheat in the real world. I'm going to go cheat from what I did earlier. I'm just going to copy that. Oh, by the way, you see how important it is to know how to use your keyboard? Yeah, so I'm moving around, not with the mouse at all, because the mouse slows me down. How do you do that? Move your cursor around. These little arrow keys on the bottom right-hand place of your keyboard, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the best developer, but I am one of the fastest developers you ever meet, because I know how to use my keyboard. So, move around, put your cursor on the first line on the screen that you want to copy. Hold down the Shift key, down arrow. That selects the entire line. Control-C, copy. Alt-Tab, get on the first position, first column in this editor. Control-V, bang, done. Save it before something happens. Okay, so now I've referenced jQuery. That's not going to work though, because I don't have it. I've got to have the file. It says, where is jQuery? It's in a JS subdirectory and it's named that. So I also have to pilfer from before. I'm going to copy this JS, put it in there. Sure enough, that came with it. So now, what is the thing that we're going to get tired of typing after 2 or 3 days? The thing that you use to say, wait for the pages ready before I start writing my jQuery stuff. Somebody tell it to me. That thing again. We understand what it is. You just got to have it there so that it waits for the page to finish loading before you do anything. Now, we're going to have a little for loop. So, for, what is I here? And why do people call it I? It's just a variable, and people often call it I because iteration, it's the index number. I don't really know why it's called I. It just, and oftentimes if they need nested for loops, you'll see I, J, K. It's one of those things that it's a developer understood. I is usually an index variable. Nothing special about it. It's just an integer.
When you're starting for this, do you need to declare I as a variable, or can you just do I equals 0, or does it matter?
We'll do that. You can declare it inside of here, but it's just a variable. You can do that.
So you have to declare it no matter what?
JavaScript will automatically declare it, but you shouldn't do that. You should declare your variables. You have a question?
I have a question about where we've started the document already. Why do we have to do 2 script elements? Why can't we just do 1?
So the question is, why do we need 2 script tags up here? The first script tag, see how it started and ended there? The first script tag says, where is the script that you want to reference? SRC. That means go find this file and load it. So that's just to get our jQuery script. So it's done. Here, this script tag says, oh, I'm actually going to write some JavaScript inline here. So this is for our code. That's for, I want you to go find the JavaScript file that is jQuery.
What's the difference between that and when you're telling your HTML to look for CSS?
The only difference is syntax. I think I have to look that one up too, but it's link. You don't actually say script, but it's link, something like that. And what's it, href is equal to something CSS, like that. It's same thing, same concept, but to make things more difficult for developers, they didn't call it script.
And you can't.
Another question.
So, actually, the first line is saying, go look in this black box right here, and the second line is saying, this is what I want to do. I'm going to tell you now what I want to do inside that, or yeah, in the black box.
And the question was, is the first line going and saying, go load that black box, and the second line saying, get ready, I'm about to write some code? The first line is actually saying, go load all of that black box into browser memory. So yeah, kind of. And then the second one is, get ready because I'm going to write some code right after the script, all the way until you see the end script tag. So if I left off this end script tag, we'd have some problems. Because the browser is still thinking, I'm writing script, I'm not writing HTML, and it wouldn't know to start looking. So let's do, we got a for loop, and this is going to go through and count 10 times. It's going to go through I, 0, 1, 2, all the way through 9. 9 because I said less than 10. So as soon as it says, oh, you are 10, it's not going to run the loop anymore. So this is initialization. This says, where do I start? This is, when do I end? And this says, every iteration, every time I finish one loop, what do? How much do I want to change I? Because if you don't change I, it's going to, if I do that would be bad. That's called an infinite loop. That means it's just going to keep going forever. You're going to have to kill the process. It's just going to lock things up. That's not good. Another question.
Can you show us what it would look like if you aren't incrementing I by just 1? So, like for instance, this is I++. You would just do it like that?
Yeah. It's just most common you do. And I could write it like this, you know. The developer's lazy.
Sure, I just wasn't sure, like...
Yeah, there's nothing special about it. It's all little pieces of syntax put together. You're starting to see the patterns. We have another question.
What happens to that meta char set tag that always went with the HTML? You know how nobody ever really explained what that meant. It was like meta.char set. Yeah.
You notice I've not typed that one time. The question was, what about the meta char set tag up here? Char set is equal to, was it UTF-8 or something? It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's a character set.
It's telling, this is the type of text that is in this file. The browsers are so smart these days that you don't have to give it information. It figures it out. Okay, so we wanted to write a for loop. And we're going to iterate, and let's look at the anatomy of for loop. For, that just says, watch out, here's a for loop coming. Then you have a parentheses that says, okay, initialization, when do you finish? And every time, what's the increment? Then start the body of the for loop. Do I have to have this brace here? Can I move it around somewhere?
Move to the line below.
Yeah, I can put it down there if I want. Other developers are going to hate me, but yeah, I could do that. Developers like to look at things and understand without getting a headache. So it's nice to write in generally accepted formatting practices. I could actually write it like this, and I could write all of that on one line, like that, do it like that, make it completely unreadable. That's horrible. That's when you have a little talk with one of your coworkers. Okay, so for loop, let's just write to the console. Just the value of whatever I is each iteration. Now there is nothing in this page. It's kind of sad. Let's do something more interesting. Let's make something in the page with jQuery. We have it in here. Might as well use it, right? We know how to append. Let's create some HTML in there. We have nothing in our body. Let's run it like this. Let's see. Nothing there, but there it is, 0 through 9. So, not very interesting, just a blank page. But let's go and do something a little bit more interesting. Let's add a div to the body with the iteration number inside of the div. So, step 1 in jQuery is always find what it is you want to talk about. What's your target? In this case, we're going to add a bunch of HTML to the body. So what's our target?
Something in the
Body? Yeah, it's just body. Okay, so we have the body. Now what are we going to do? You know this function. We want to add text to the body. So how do you say that? Append. Perfect. Yeah, see, when you first see it, it's like, oh, a dozen functions, what do they all do? But once you use them twice, it's like, yeah, just append. And there are only a dozen. So, what are we appending? For now, let's make it quick and ugly. I'm just going to append the number. I actually have a license key. I just have it on another computer. Okay, so look at that. It's not very pretty, because all we did is append text. And there's no tags. It doesn't know how to format it. It's like, okay, I'll show it to you. There's not even a space in between the numbers. So instead of just the text, how do we format that as maybe p tags or divs or spans or something? Help us out.
Now start typing in the HTML that you want to create within the body. So you want to do paragraph, let's do open bracket.
Is that going to work? What is, don't answer you, but what is that going to do?
It's gonna make it all together in just a paragraph.
It's gonna say I.
It's going to say I. Perfect. Why is it going to say I? And it's going to say I how many times?
Once.
10 times. Let's go watch that happen. Why did it say I?
You need to do variable I instead.
Yeah, because that's part of the string. If it's inside of a string delimiter, it's a string. We meant it to be the variable i's. Okay, okay, computer. We got to do concatenation. There we go. Okay. What's that?
You also do I plus BR.
That's, yeah, it's valid HTML. You could do that. The question was, could I also do it like this? Like that. Would it do kind of the same thing? It's like, yeah, it will. Notice the spacing is a little bit different because by default, the styling for a p tag and NP is a little bit different from the BR, the break tag. So that's all it is. So the challenge is this. I want you to do this, and if you finish with this, what I'm about to tell you, and I'll write it into Slack again, I want you to use a for loop like this, and I want you to create divs, and I want you to have divs that look like boxes, not full page divs. I want you to have like maybe 100 pixel by 100 pixel boxes, and I want you to have a random or a new color for each one of the divs that you write on the screen. And if you want to get fancy, you can put them in different places on the screen. It'd be nice to put like the number of the div in the div itself so you can identify which is which. And I'm going to type this in the Slack. So this is a start. I'll paste this in the Slack to start. Notice there's nothing in our body. We're doing it all dynamically with jQuery. So the challenge is this, to repeat. We're going to dynamically add box divs, 100 pixel by 100 pixel, and I want you to have the background color of each of these divs to be a different color. And if you want, move them around, do something interesting with them. And once you get past that, on div number 5, if you click div number 5, have an alert pop up and says you clicked div number 5. All the others do nothing. Harder than it sounds. So I'll write that into Slack. Any questions about what your challenge is? Okay, go to it.